Shirley Holmes and Dr. Nelson were taking the train one day when they passed a huge flock of sheep in a field. As quickly as they had seen this, the flock of sheep passed out of view.
Wow, that was a lot of sheep. I wonder how many there were.
Elementary, my dear Nelson. There were 167 sheep.
Are you telling me that you counted all of those in that brief moment they passed by?
Don't be silly, Nelson. I counted the number of legs and divided by 4. Happy Easter, everyone. Wow, that Shirley Holmes is really clever, isn't she? We're going to be seeing more of her and Dr. Nelson later on as they look into what Easter is all about. Now, I wonder, when you hear the word Easter, what do you think of? Maybe you think of Easter eggs? I have a feeling quite a lot of people might think of them. Or maybe you think of beautiful spring flowers like daffodils, because this is the time of year when there's lots and lots of them about, isn't it? Or maybe you think of frolicking Easter lambs bouncing around in the fields. I have a feeling quite a lot of people, when they think of Easter, think of yummy things to eat, like hot cross buns. Or maybe you think of bunnies. Well, keep watching, because we're going to find out what Easter is really all about. And we're going to start off by singing a song. It's got actions, so jump up and get ready to join in.
Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus, He is the King. He is the King. He commanded the fishermen, hey, come follow me. And they did, and they did. And they did, because Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus, He is the King. He is the King. He commanded the evil ones, hey, come out of Him. And they did, and they did, and they did, because Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus, He is the King. He is the King. He commanded the wind and waves, hey, be still, be still. And they did, and they did, and they did, because Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus, He is the King. He is the King. He promised that 3 days after death He'd rise again. And He did, and He did, and He did, because Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is the King, ruler over everything. Jesus is the one, promised one, the Son of God. Jesus is the Lord, He's the one you can't ignore. Jesus, Jesus,
Welcome back to another mystery with our very own world-famous detectives, Shirley Holmes and Dr. Nelson.
Oh, this is lovely. So much better than trudging through deserts trying to solve mysteries. It's so nice to see that you're not smoking that awful pipe anymore, Holmes.
Willpower, Nelson. That was all that was needed.
You do seem to, however, be eating a lot of chocolate these days, Holmes.
Well, it is Easter, Nelson.
Ah, Easter, a time of daffodils, hot cross buns, spring lambs, chocolate eggs. When we remember how the spring lamb laid a chocolate egg, hid it in a tomb, but then... What happened next, Holmes?
None of that happened, Nelson. None of it. Except in your head.
Well, what is Easter about then?
I'm very glad you asked me that. Easter is the story of how Jesus lives.
But he died.
Yes, he did die, but then he came alive again. Now, Nelson, if there is one thing I want you to remember about Easter, and this could be being a bit optimistic, remember that Jesus lives. And we're going to find out all about this from the Bible. It's mentioned in all 4 Gospels.
I know those. Right, so we've got Matthew, John, Paul, Ringo, Frodo, Hermione?
No, Nelson. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And we're going to look at what Luke has to say about Jesus, okay? It all starts in Jerusalem, a city on the edge of the Roman Empire. And there's lots of people who aren't happy about that. It's about 36 AD, and it's about tea time, otherwise known as the Last Supper.
I feared the worst. When 13 blokes book out the party room, you expect it to be pretty grim in here afterwards, especially when they order wine. Mind you, this Jesus, apparently, he can make his own wine. And bread. Don't ask me how. My husband, Isaac, he can't even make a bitter when he's got the ingredients. Mind you, didn't sound like much of a celebration in here. Oh, not that I was listening at the door or anything. Yeah, this one's too thick. But Passover, look, it's meant to be a celebration, isn't it? My mum, she told me all about how our people, they were slaves, stuck in Egypt. But God, he rescued them. He took them into the desert and he gave them bread every day. So just think, if you're, I don't know, you're ever stuck somewhere you don't want to be, like maybe you've got to stay at home because of some sort of plague or something, like there's always hope. Mind you, I had hope in this Jesus. Or I did. I thought he was going to rescue us from the Romans. But when I came in to put away the plates near the end, I heard him say something. He took some of the bread and he took some of the wine and he gave it to them
And he said, eat and drink in remembrance of him. Like he was gonna die or something. But he's meant to be a miracle worker. He's meant to be able to raise people from the dead. I don't know what his game is. Anyway, come on. We've got to get a move on. We've got a bunch of tax collectors coming in for breakfast meeting this morning.
So, after Jesus left the upper room, after he'd had the Last Supper meal, he went into the garden and met the Easter bunny, right?
No, Nelson. Luke does not tell us that.
Well, did they have an Easter egg hunt then?
No. Jesus was arrested by a crowd of people who came from the temple, a whole mob of people with clubs and swords.
But we're talking about Jesus. He'd done nothing wrong. He was a nice guy and he went around healing people and generally being brilliant.
Yeah. They didn't like the fact that Jesus was claiming to be God. In fact, they wanted to execute him, but they needed the Romans for that.
That's awful.
So they took Jesus to Pontius Pilate. He was the Roman governor. And like you said, Jesus had done nothing wrong, so Pontius Pilate said they should release him.
Yay!
Jesus' enemies had whipped up the crowd, so they demanded that Barabbas, a known criminal, be released and Jesus be crucified.
But that's not fair.
I've really done it this time. I led a rebellion against the Romans. I got caught. May have murdered 1 or 2 people. Got a couple of unpaid parking tickets as well. Anyway, any day now, they're going to lead me away to be crucified. I've tried everything to get out of it. I tried bribing the guards, blackmailing the judge, threatening the witnesses, saying please. But none of that worked, and nor did the jailbreak either. Let me give you a tip. If you're ever trying to hide a nice long metal file inside some bread, make sure it's in a baguette. It's the right shape and size. My sister, bless her, she tried to hide a file in 2 crusty buns. Bet you can guess how well that went. And the guards ate the buns. Those were my buns.
Oh, shut up.
Don't I get a last request or something, like a final meal?
No, you don't. You've been a very naughty boy and you're going down.
There's no hope for me. No chance of a rescue now.
Barabbas? Pilate's changed his mind. Jesus is going to die and you're going to live. So you're free to go.
What? Jesus dies? And I live? Even though I'm a really rotten so-and-so?
Doesn't seem right to me, but that's the way it is.
Well, look at that. Didn't I tell you when you first locked me up, there's always hope?
No, you said, please don't lock me up. Here's 50 denarii, treat yourself.
No, fair enough, I did say that actually. But anyway, it's a beautiful day. Let's go!
Well, That Barabbas is one lucky happy bunny.
Oh, Nelson, would you please stop talking about bunnies? We need to find out about what happened to Jesus next. Now, Jesus was taken to a place called the Skull.
The Skull? Ugh. What happened there?
Put it this way, it wasn't an ice cream parlour.
Imagine that, an ice cream parlour called The Skull. 0 customers.
No, this was the place where Jesus was executed. He was nailed to a wooden cross and left to die, with 2 criminals, one on either side of him.
But this is Jesus, so surely he had a way out of that?
No, he didn't. Jesus died.
Oh, but you... Oh.
Do you know there was even a Roman centurion there to make sure that it happened properly?
I would not want that job.
Oh, that was the weirdest day of work ever. You know, we get 2 types in my line of work. You get the mumblers and you get the screamers. Now, the mumblers, they have given up hope. And to be honest, there is no hope on a cross. But the screamers, they're still in denial. They're screaming and yelling at everyone and everything. We had a screamer today. He was yelling at me and this bloke Jesus. To be honest, I'm not really sure why Jesus was being crucified. He didn't really seem the type. He was more of a mumbler. He was very quiet. But he did say this from the cross. He said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." Well, I do know what I'm doing. My job, right? And I'm pretty good at it. It was a pretty weird thing to say, right? So anyway, this screamer, he's this criminal, and he just starts yelling at Jesus. He says, "Aren't you supposed to be the true king promised by God? Save yourself and save us while you're about it." Now this other criminal, he jumps in, obviously not literally, he jumps in. He's not a screamer, he's more of a dreamer. And he says, "Don't you fear God. We are getting what we deserve, but this man, he has done nothing to deserve this." And then he turns to Jesus, and I'll never forget this, and he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Dream on, dreamer. Jesus on a cross, there's no hope. But then, and this was extraordinary, Jesus turns to him and says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." What's that all about? Jesus on a cross, there's no hope, and then he dies. And it's the end. I don't understand it. That was pretty weird, right? But it reminds me a little bit of the story my dad told from when he was posted to Bethlehem 30 years ago. Some pretty weird things happened back then too. Anyway, it's dinner time and I'm starving. I had nothing to eat but this crusty bread roll all day. I'm going to go and see what the cook's rustled up for grub.
What a sad story. Happy Easter, everyone.
That's not the end of the story, Nelson. There's a wonderful twist that you do not want to miss.
There is an Easter bunny after all?
There are no bunnies in this story, Nelson. If you like bunnies so much, why don't you go and watch Watership Down? On second thoughts, if you like bunnies so much, don't go and watch Watership Down. I cannot stress that enough, Nelson. Let's get back to the story of Jesus. Now, a man named Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body and laid it in a tomb.
Right. That's not an improvement. Jesus is still dead.
Just you wait, Nelson.
Sorry, we're just so tired. We're running to Jerusalem, 'cause
Jesus is alive! He's come back!
let's go back to the beginning, shall we? So, we are on the road to Emmaus, right? and we're chatting about everything that's happened this week. And then this guy comes up and he starts asking us what we're chatting about. And we're like, duh! We're talking about Jesus! Where have you been?
And turns out, it was Jesus!
Don't spoil it!
Sorry.
That's the best bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're having a chat with this guy and we're telling him all about these amazing miracles that Jesus did, right? And all about how we thought Jesus was going to rescue us from the Romans. But then, well, the temple priests killed Jesus on the Friday. And then, on the Sunday, the women, they come to the tomb. And then...
Jesus was gone!
Unbelievable! Anyway, so we're left thinking, where had he gone? I mean, we were sad and confused.
And then this guy on the road, he says to us that actually it's all been planned by God. And that if you look, it's in the Bible all the way through from the beginning.
Yeah, and that it's not saving from the Romans that we need, but saving from sin and death. And how we can be with God forever.
I mean, heart's on fire. Mind's blown. I mean, mic drop.
Anyway, we stop off for a bite to eat with this guy, right? And when we stop, he breaks the bread and we realise that he is Jesus.
It was him. It really was him. He was right there in front of our eyes.
And all of our hopes and dreams were just there eating bread with us. And then...
boom! He disappears. He's vanished. Can you believe it?
Can you believe him?
Sorry, it's just such a good story. I just get excited. And you know what it means? It means that Jesus is really alive. That there is hope. That he can rescue us after all. So that's why we're running back to Jerusalem, because we've got to tell the others.
Yeah, and we'd better get going, actually.
Come on!
Come on! So does that mean Jesus is alive right now?
Yep. Not like the Easter bunny.
Someone killed the Easter bunny.
No, Nelson. The Easter bunny was never... Let's talk about this later, shall we, Nelson? Because now we're talking about the true story of what really happened to Jesus. In Luke's Gospel, we have the story of his life and his death and his life again. You can read it for yourself.
Well, I might just do that. With some chocolate, of course.
Good idea. Could I have some?
Holmes, do you really think you need any more chocolate? Oh, all right then. Let's go find some. And I'll watch that film. What was it called? Watership Down?
No, Nelson, don't watch Watership Down, no. Oh, does she ever listen to anything I say? Oh, I very much doubt it. But I do wish she'd listen to what it says about Jesus in Luke's Gospel. Jesus was a good man, but he died on a cross. But you know, Jesus knew that was going to happen. He'd warned his friends about it. He even told them that 3 days later he would come back to life again. And the amazing thing is that he did. Because Jesus was no ordinary man. Jesus was God's Son. And he had come on a mission to rescue us, to save us from the punishment that we all deserve for turning our backs on God. You know, when Jesus was crucified in Barabbas' place, he was crucified in our place too. And Jesus beat sin, and he beat death, and he proved it by coming back to life again. As I said to Nelson, Easter is the story of how Jesus lives. And that is much more exciting than the Easter bunny. Oh, I just wish that Nelson would understand that. And you know, you can read about Jesus in Luke's Gospel too. Just remember, the important thing about Easter is it's the story of how Jesus lives. Now, I'd better go and find Nelson and check that she's not watching Watership Down. Oh, it will end in tears if she is.
Who can save the day? Take our sins away. Who can rescue us with mighty power? Super Savior to the rescue. Super Savior, mighty to save. Look, look, here comes Jesus, up, up and out of the grave. Super Savior to the rescue. Super Savior, mighty to save. Look, look, and here comes Jesus, up, up and out of the grave. He's the death crusher, sin smasher. Who's the mighty super savior? Jesus! He's the death crusher, sin smasher. Who's the mighty super savior? Jesus! 1, 2, 3, now! Who can save the day? Take our sins away. Who can rescue us with mighty power? Super Savior to the rescue. Super Savior, mighty to save. Look, look, and here comes Jesus, up, up and out of the grave. Super Savior to the rescue. Super Savior, mighty to save. Look, look, here comes Jesus, up, up and out of the grave.
Shirley, Holmes and Dr. Nelson went on a camping trip. After a day in the fresh air and a good meal, they lay down for the night and went to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awoke and nudged her faithful friend.
Nelson, Nelson, look up at the sky. What do you see?
Millions and millions of stars.
And what does that tell you, Nelson?
Well, astrologically, it tells me that there are millions of stars and potentially billions of planets. Astronomically, I can see that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, it's about 3:15. Theologically, God is almighty and we are very small and insignificant. Meteorologically, it is going to be a stunning day tomorrow. Why? What does it tell you?
It tells me, Nelson, that someone has stolen our tent.